Welcome to Guelph Wrestler. I'm Andrew Sennedra, and this is the Devious Banana, Captain Witchfingers, and today we are talking about All In Wembley Stadium. Really jam-packed card, but was it, up to our expectations? And we'll dive into that and see how it goes. 0 Hour we thought was pretty solid. A couple of good matches. We actually both agreed on the fact that we thought Hook and Jack Perry should have been on the pay-per-view itself instead of Samoa Joe and CM Punk.
Yeah.
Especially since it opened with that, it felt a bit weird. I actually even forgot about that was the opening match a handful of matches into the pay-per-view. I kept thinking the Omega Kota Ibushi Hangman versus Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takeshita was the opening match. But 0 Hour match, you definitely really like the Hook and Jack Perry one too, right?
Yeah, I really like that one. I was kind of disappointed. I really wanted to see him coast to coast like RVD.
That one.
Yeah, flip the fans off, and I saw the glass kind of shatter his arms when he landed.
On the rolling thunder on the limousine. It was it was like there was like literally one moment in that match, and it was better than our thoughts on Punk and Samoa Joe's entire match. So that's just the way what we think of those two guys versus that. But anyways. Now, also on 0 Hour, you had Aussie Open unfortunately lose the belts to MJF and Adam Cole, which I thought was, kind of disappointing. But that sort of also kind of made us think what was going to actually happen in the main event, right? It was kind of like you said, that there wasn't going to be any backstabbing in the main event because they won the tag titles, so that would sort of negate them winning that making any sense. All of a sudden, what are they going to do, like hate each other with the tag titles? It'd be really weird. So that sort of was able to sort of predict what was potentially going to happen there. Obviously we had the opener match. We sort of mentioned how we weren't really too into that, but we really liked the Golden Elite versus Bullet Club Gold, I guess, kind of, even though it wasn't entirely Bullet Club Gold, with Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, Kota Ibushi versus Juice Robinson, Jay White, and Konosuke Takeshita.
It was funny. You kind of see the ref. He looks at Juice's eyes, and you see fears the look of God. His left hand of God.
Rick Knox just happened to be in that one again, refereeing the same. He got knocked out earlier that week.
It was funny when the cowboy does the buckshot lariat, and then Takeshita doesn't know what's going on. So he calls on the back of his head.
Stupid jackass.
Oh.
That was pretty good. There were definitely good moments in there throughout the match. I think Omega had a really solid match. There was a really fast-paced sort of succession of moves and stuff in there where everybody was kind of coming in, taking each other out. I thought that was kind of reminded me a bit of like New Japan, when each guy comes in, gets a move, knocks the other guy out. So there was definitely some high-paced stuff. A bit of a surprised ending, but after I thought about that ending, it made more sense because now, like I said to you, we're gonna probably get Omega versus Takeshita on All Out, right?
Yeah,
and that's what they announced. So I was like, okay, this makes more sense. They wanted to stockpile this pay-per-view with as many big names as they could to sell it, and then turn this into creating storylines for All Out the following week, which it seems to be kind of what's happening.
Yeah, I think that one should be a lot more climactic because this one is kind of an anticlimactic kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like Kenny Omega was like wiping the floor with everybody, and then Takeshita comes flying out of nowhere and rolls him up, right? So I was like, oh, this means this has got to turn into something more, down the line. Then we're moving on to Young Bucks versus FTR, which I would have to say for a Young Bucks match, we were actually kind of disappointed, but it was like, like we said before, we feel like a lot of teams actually carry FTR. When we watch their matches against the Briscoes, we feel like it's the Briscoes. We feel like it's the Young Bucks that sort of carry. I mentioned that when they fought the Guns. I actually preferred what the Guns did in the match against FTR over what they did.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like this third match, it was kind of up to the Bucks to come up with something new, something exciting to keep this match sort of. There was some good moments in it from both teams, but it just wasn't like the level of what you kind of expect on a show of this caliber, right?
Yeah, I think we enjoyed the first two times they faced off against each other kind of thing.
Yeah, especially the first one.
Yeah, this one it kind of lost its spark. And also they tried to reenact the finish of the second one with him doing a 450.
I think that wasn't I think that was the first match.
Oh, it could be.
The first time, yeah. Yeah, that was the first one.
But we were thinking like maybe they're gonna do it differently, like maybe they're gonna land it this time, but the exact same.
It would have made. I think it would have made way more sense. He attempts a 450 this time and lands it, and that's what wins him the match. He wins it with a Young Bucks type maneuver, right? That would have made sense to me. But yeah, it was an okay match. Not great, not bad. You know, somewhere hanging out. Now we're moving on to the big Stadium Stampede match. Probably my favorite of the night. We got, what do we got here? Best Friends, you know who that includes, with Penta, whatever you want to call him, Penta everything, and Eddie Kingston versus the Blackpool Combat Club and Santana Ortiz, which was a kind of a cool addition, we thought, especially kind of works with, with Eddie Kingston, as well as they had a bit of a rivalry with the Lucha Bros. Obviously Phoenix didn't make it because of visa issues, so-called injury. Anyways, but this match was really exciting. There was so many different dynamics to it, so many different rivalries that they could sort of angle in on. Pretty much everybody had a good moment, except maybe Wheeler Yuta. I don't know. I don't remember him, doing much besides a few different things and the suplex on Chucky T onto the railing. But this one was pretty interesting. I thought, like, since it was a big one and since it's Stadium Stampede hardcore, I was like, Mox is gonna probably try to bring out something new that he hasn't done yet. Okay, he does the fork, thumbtacks, barbed wire, and I was like, oh, he brought out the skewers this time, the old GCW style shit with Masada, right? So. That was kind of interesting that he brought that out and then took it in his own head. Penta was like, oh, you want to go? I'm going to go on your fucking brain, man.
Oh, it's funny. He was like fighting this with the skewers like stuck in his head. So he's like,
Penta definitely had a lot of momentum there for a bit. He's beating out Mox and people, and then he supposedly gets hurt by the pile driver. And I kind of thought that it seemed a little weird at first, and lo and behold, later on he comes out as like Pentagon Red, or Pentagon Crimson should be his name when he comes out like that. Comes out all evil and killed Santana through the tables on that one. I don't think we saw Santana afterwards, did we?
No, he died.
I'm trying to remember. I was like, oh, okay, we'll just go focus on everybody else now, which is probably smart since the Stadium Stampede wasn't filmed, so they can't move around. Yeah. So that was probably smart planning on their behalf on that one. Trent took a boatload of fucking trouble or punishment. Like I remember he came in and half of his face was red. So many nasty shots on the ladder. It was just like, man, he took quite a bit in this one.
I feel like Sue is like in a video game. She's like a health truck comes over. He comes over, Trent gets a boost, boost the power, boost the strength, boost the healing kind of thing.
It's like Twisted Metal when you go onto the thing and it heals you. It's like he goes into the van and it's like.
Yeah, he's like stronger now. He's like getting weapons from Sue. He's like splashing them.
Yeah, they got like a resurgence of energy. Him and Chucky T.
And Mock's pretty nasty. He's always that force. He's always like stabbing people. Poor Orange Cassidy got like holes all over his like forehead.
Yeah, at the end you can sort of see the scrapes and stuff on his forehead a little bit. Was pretty rough that he took. I also liked that Orange Cassidy though, like he went with the tape on his knuckles to get the glass. Reminded me of Jean-Claude Van Damme in Kickboxer, where he puts his hands in it, he's taking a Kong pose, whatever. I was like, oh man, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Another funny moment was like when you brought it up where Kingston's like lying dead. He like whacks him. Yeah, then you hear Kingston like ah.
Oh, when they're up in the luxury box or whatever it was called. Yeah, and he's like laying there after he got nailed in the head with a bottle, and like everyone's kind of walking away, and Wheeler Yuta just hits him. He's like, ah. And then everyone walks away. I was like, oh, that was random. Kingston's like, oh, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna fuck these guys up. Well, I liked a lot of the interactions between everybody. So many rivalries. I liked that like Eddie and John had, the fracture in their friendship because of all this, and then the things they had to do with one another. There was quite a bit of layers to this, and that's what also made it interesting beyond just the match and the moves and the violence and everything.
Yeah. It's funny how Kingston kind of turned into Zangief. one moment where he's like spitting, punching everybody. You know, he's punch Mox.
Oh, I guess he was
Costume.
I guess it would have been better if he was swinging both arms.
He's like, screw you, Mox.
Eat that. That would have been better. Now we're moving on to the coffin match: Darby Allin and Sting versus Christian Cage, which you weren't happy about, and Swerve Strickland. Pretty cool match. It did still turn out really well, though, I think. You know, probably because Christian was able to take some abuse. He did some gnarly stuff, taping Darby's hands up, making him fly around with his hands taped behind his back. You know, it was pretty nasty. You know, a good thing he didn't land on his head or something. They really used the coffin itself quite a bit as a weapon. I don't know how many times guys landed on that, or slammed on that, or missed the 450 on that, right? Like, or Darby doing a coffin drop on that to get Swerve into the coffin and like clamp it on his hair. I was like, man, they really used that coffin.
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe Darby's like doing all these moves like kind of Orange Cassidy style, like no hands kind of things. Like if you mess up on those, you could like land head first on like those thighs kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Super dangerous. And it's funny, the Sting, like he jumps out on the table doesn't break.
Oh yeah.
So he's like, let me go round 2, you know? He sits on his man, like Swerve like broke his back.
He's like, this one, I'm gonna make sure I can get through this table this time. You know, the Sting does, instead of the Stinger splash, he does like the Stinger squash. He just jumps down, squashes.
And Swerve kind of remind me of Zombie, where like trying to close the coffin, he's trying to break out his hands, like come like get in there, you stupid zombies, do that.
It reminded me of like Night of the Living Dead. It was like, oh Bob, bro, they're coming to get you. Like Swerve's like, I'm coming to get you. It's like my hands are flying there, flapping around there. We're gonna cut them off. But overall, I thought that was like, you know, yeah, my second favorite. I think that was a really good match on there. It helped, you know, elevate a lot up in my opinion. I thought it was really good.
I think it's a fitting end because it says Swerve's house on it, and the Swerve like, you know, laid in there.
And this is also another one that might be able to transition. Well, it is transitioning with Darby versus Luchasaurus on the pay-per-view next week. But I feel like there can be still some layers to it a little bit with like Nick Wayne maybe versus AR Fox as some sort of like, you know, AR Fox trying to prove like his loyalty again. But I feel like there could be some layers still within this rivalry, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we're moving on to Chris Jericho versus Will Ospreay. I really like Will Ospreay's gear. He came out fully decked, you know, the Union Jack style, the red, white, and blue for him. He looked really great. He definitely showed up and did quite a bit. I was, you know, thinking he was going to carry this match. Obviously, Jericho's like a billion, you know, but Jericho was still trying to pull out his Japan style stuff, the moonsaults, lion salt, stuff like that he wanted to do. So he kind of helped, you know, keep up his end a little bit. The code breakers and things like that were pretty vicious. The suplex, the huge
German.
Yeah, that way he really got some good elevation. It's funny because he's like, oh, Will Ospreay, you're being too reckless. You're gonna shorten your career. He's like, oh, I'm gonna shorten your career on the damn apron then.
And if anybody's gonna shorten it, it's gonna be me.
Yeah, like overall, like I didn't have much expectations because I was a little worried Ospreay versus, you know, Jericho would be down compared to like Ospreay versus Omega or Ospreay versus Phil Anselmo, El Phantasmo, which we saw in the G1 Climax, right? So I had a little bit of like, oh man, I'm a little uncertain how, but it still turned out pretty well. Ospreay got a lot of good stuff in and kept the match pretty exciting. It didn't seem, you know, slow or dragged on at all either.
I like when Jericho plans like these big matches, like he like does like a little bit more kind of thing. Like he tries the Oz Cutter, you know, didn't look that clean, but you know, he still tried the Oz Cutter.
Yeah, they like conked each other in the head or whatever. Yeah, yeah, but you know, ended pretty well. You know, Ospreay, you know, 3 times the charm, lifting that heavy old dude up there for the Stormbreaker. Yeah. You know, he pulled it off. It turned out really well, and you know, what was that? The Hidden Blade? Would you call it the Hidden Blade Judas effect that he tried or whatever? But pretty solid match. I like that there was, right in the middle there was some really solid matches back to back. And the next match I thought wasn't too bad. I was a bit surprised that I did like it a little better than I thought I would. The Acclaimed versus and Billy versus the House of Black. I was a little worried because I felt like, you know, the last handful of months, the Acclaimed with Billy Gunn has been like they've been repetitive. The formula of the matches have been the same, but I felt like this one was a little better. You know, Boland's definitely had, I think, a really good performance overall out of all 3 guys in that. You know, Buddy Matthews did really well. Malachi was, I think he was just doing a little bit less stuff, but my favorite stuff was probably done by Brody King. That dude was just like, you know, throwing people around, taking risks. He smashed himself against Billy smashed him with the chair and stuff like that. And then like his ability to kick out at one, and he just had a lot of energy and aura about him in that match. I really liked his presence within.
I like how the fan interactions where like Brody does something, the fans just starts like barking. I don't know, Blue. They're just like barking. It's like, what's going on?
It seems like he has, like he's got quite a bit of an almost like a niche or unknown, you know, crowd following behind him. Like he doesn't seem like he's big superstar or everything, but it's always wherever he goes, people start barking when he does, right? And so it definitely seems like people are into him.
The fans are part of the House of Black, you know, they're part of like his cult. So.
Yeah.
So Julia Hart, you know, she tried to interfere, but you know, they taught her a lesson and blast her in the yam bag area.
Taz is like, oh, the yam bags, and they're like, well, she doesn't have any yam bags. So Lee Johnson's gonna be mad. That was funny how like I told immediately when I saw her like storming over that she was gonna pull Aubrey Edwards out of the ring. Yeah, there was just some things that I saw that were pretty obvious that were going to go down. But I also was thinking, like, I think like House of Black losing the belts now kind of opens, you know, maybe some new avenues up for trios matches and stuff. And I was thinking along the lines of maybe when Roosh comes back that they can have a rivalry with the Acclaimed.
Yeah, and I think you also wanted a one with Righteous, and I think that would be a perfect matchup. They play mind games with each other.
Oh, Righteous coming in versus the House of Black.
Yeah,
that'd be a phenomenal one. Even though it seems like they're both heels, I think that I look at like one is more so disliked than the other. House of Black does have quite a fan base, in my opinion, for that people like them. So then we're jumping on to the main event: MJF versus Adam Cole. I'm not the biggest fan of either of these guys for the most part. I wasn't really too much into this match. But the one thing, I didn't feel like this one dragged on as much as some of the other ones, like MJF versus CM Punk, for instance. You know, I felt like this one definitely had more to it than that. There was definitely a lot of storytelling within it. I pointed that out to you, that it seemed like they were trying to maybe Adam Cole kind of turn heelish, kind of, you know, be selfish, maybe do the little bit of a switch within the match, like Bret Hart versus Stone Cold, or Bret Hart versus Roddy Piper, when they were doing like, you know, Piper was, oh, should I hit Bret Hart? You know, that they were doing moments like that, which is interesting because MJF is kind of a historian of wrestling and likes Roddy Piper, so I was kind of seeing those things within the match.
Yeah, it's funny how everybody was expecting like somebody to turn versus like the 0 hour or like the main event.
Yeah.
But then I was predicting like that's what everybody is expecting. So then I was thinking like I don't think they should go that way. They should like throw everybody a wrench, and then there's no turn kind of thing, right? They win the tag team champs, and then just stay as buddies at the end kind of thing. And it kind of went the way as I thought that it should have went, to swerve everybody.
And they're making Roderick Strong out to be the bad guy.
Yeah, he's like trying so hard. He's like keep running out. He's like begging people.
You're like, where the hell did he come from again? And he just like comes out. You just see this guy with the neck brace. He's like, where the hell did Strong come from, dirty bastard?
MJF's got better knees, you know. He didn't hurt his knee today.
Adam Cole did on the table, you know. But there was a couple of moments where I kind of thought were like almost plot holes. Remember when they were like outside? He gave him the suplex on the stairs, and MJF is laying outside and just sitting there going, Adam Cole's in the ring. He can't win the belt. Why doesn't he throw him in? You know, like it seemed like a bit of a plot hole, and like why didn't MJF just lay outside if he was, I don't know, it just seemed kind of weird and not really make any sense.
Yeah, maybe Adam Cole's not that smart, I don't know, man.
Like if they wanted to show that, like, you know, MJF had integrity, well, they showed it in bigger, more noticeable moments, like when he wasn't going to pile drive or tombstone Cole through the table, and when he put the Dynamite Diamond ring back away. I just thought the 10 count sort of outside the ring was kind of, I don't know, it just didn't seem to fit, make sense.
One thing I don't understand is like how the double clothesline, how they knock each other out for the double draw. Like, it's a clothesline, kick out, buddy, kick out.
Yeah, there was definitely some weird things going on, and there was, you know, No surprises though. We Tony Khan mentioned some surprises.
Yeah.
Unless he meant Mercedes Moné, in the crowd. Was that the surprise? It's like, hey, we're just sitting here. But overall, let's see what we got on our ranking system. We got good, great, awesome, amazing, spectacular, and fantastic. Where do you got yours?
I'm gonna say it wasn't a bad show. I say it was great, that's awesome, but I don't know, I expected more because it's Wembley's 80,000. I expected big surprises, people to show up, but I didn't quite get that. So, but I still say it's a good show. Also.
Okay, yeah. That's kind of how I felt. I was expecting more because it was supposed to be such a monumental show. So I was going with awesome because there was a handful of matches that I did really like on there. That really boosted it up, I think, in my opinion. So, we're both going with awesome on this one. We actually agreed, but overall it's pretty solid. But it's kind of interesting also. I kind of like the idea of like the stories and stuff that can segue to next week at All Out. So that's pretty good as well. So those are our thoughts on All In. What were your thoughts on this monumental, pay-per-view from AEW? What did you like it? Was it good? Did you sort of notice some of the plot hole things that we noticed? Were some of the matches up there with your expectations, or kind of not so much? Anyways, until next time, folks, how about some heavy wrestling?